Hey everybody, how's it going? We have warm weather again. The shop's nice and toasty. It's like 20 degrees Celsius in here, 70 about Fahrenheit. Perfect. We gotta get the Super Pro 70 done here, friends. I'm really excited to run this saw again. I threw this back together on the last video, and I don't know if you caught it at the end, but it was kind of lazy going back down to idle. Well, these Macs have a lot of crank and flywheel inertia, so they're not the zippiest saws I've noticed. But this one, it felt a little wrong when I put it back together. So instead of messing around and trying to run it with an air leak, I took it back down again. I sprayed some carb cleaner around the base of the carburetor, and it seemed to be leaking. So for whatever reason, it didn't seal up the other day. I think it was just too cold in here. So rather than wasting time with carb leaks and intake leaks, I'm going to try and seal this thing back up. Now, I'm hoping the intake stayed glued down. If it didn't, I'm going to have to tear this whole saw back down again. The trials and tribulations of being an antique power saw porter or builder. You guys that mess with these know sometimes they can be a headache and leave you with a sore brain. But I love doing this stuff. I love showing it to you guys. So this is what we're doing today. I have the carb off. I need to make a new carb gasket again. I made one last time. I'm not so sure about it, so I'm just going to redo it. There you go. We'll throw that one in the G file. And let's see if we can get this thing sealed back down. Now, I'm hoping my intake, like I just said, isn't leaking. I'm not sure. But this has been sitting in this shop. I've had heat in here quite a bit lately for about a week. So hopefully, keep your fingers crossed that intake's not leaking. If it is, I'm going to tear this thing right back down. I may replace the intake. I have a new one. And if that's the deal, then that's what we're going to do. So, but before we do that, I don't want to, that would take a couple hours. I'm going to quickly throw this thing back together. I'll bring you guys in close. I'm going to make a new gasket and we'll get this thing rocking and rolling. I'm dying to send this thing to Buckin, and it's just fun to have him run my saws. He's a faller, he's a sawman, and like I said before, I'm the mechanic, I'm not the driver. I love driving these things, don't get me wrong, but I have so many power saws. A lot of the stuff I pick up is just to show you guys on the channel and, to wrench on them. And I have a few Macs of my own now. Thank you to everybody that's donated them, and I really appreciate it. So we'll send this to Buckin. He's my friend, he's a good fella, and, he gets so excited over these things that, it's infectious. And he inspires me to do crazier builds and have even more fun. So it's a win-win scenario. Okay, I'm going to make another gasket, and I'll bring you guys in when we're putting this together, and I'll kind of show you where the leak was, or where I think it was. Okay guys, I got you in at the bench here. So we're trying to eliminate leaks. Now, one source or potential source of a leak on this saw is the impulse line. The impulse line seemed okay, but the ends of it were getting kind of rough, so it passes a vacuum test, but when you put it on there, who knows if it's leaking. So she's tight in there. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to attempt to put a new rubber impulse line on here. I can't get my hands in. I might have to pull the clutch off to do this. Again, these Macs can be very, very difficult to work on at times. Okay, you got to take your time with these and really plan ahead, because it can be tough. Okay, this line seems like it's a little too long. That's a good sign. If we can't get it off, that means she's sealed on there. I always try and push my lines off, not pull them. If you pull them, they usually end up, you can rip them pretty bad. Okay, I'm going to cut about an inch off. and it was getting kinked a little bit. So okay, here we go. Sausage fingers versus McCulloch power saw. Ooh, sausage fingers won. Okay. You guys can see what I'm doing right here. This line right here. I might have to make it shorter again. It's wanting to kink a little bit. Okay, well we'll give her one more go. Hope my arm's not in the way. It totally is. Okay, there we go. I think this will actually be okay. I don't really want to shorten it anymore. Actually, yeah, I guess if I do that. So all we're trying to do here is eliminate more places for potential leaks. Okay, I'm going to cut a little bit off. If not, I'm going to have to get some different line. I'll buy some Tygon and use Tygon for this, because I'm not messing around here. Okay, let's see if we can get that in there. Okay, I think we got her. Question is she kinked? I guess we'll find out when we go to start her. I think it's going to be okay like that. We will find out when we fire her up. If we don't have impulse, she won't get fuel. Factory, it's a molded line. And I guess there's one way to find out. Here. So I'm going to take a little tiny wee bit of oil. Oop. Whatever, we're going to clean this after. Okay, I'm going to drip it in the impulse hole. Okay. See, the impulse hole is full. I'm going to pull the decomp. And I saw it pulse. So right there, you know, we have impulse. Okay. Just a little trick. If you think your impulse line is no good, or you're not getting impulse, this applies to a lot of the old saws, the home lights, you know, your 266, 268, 61, 272, all those old saws. If they have a Tillotson carb, or I guess it's regardless, some of them had Walboros, but they pulse from a little port at the intake flange. Now I'm going to attempt, I'm just going to put a zip tie on here to secure it. Okay. Even though it's on there good, it's not leaking, but who knows, right? When it gets hot, it might stall. Okay, so we've dealt with that. Now what we want to do is, so I sprayed carb cleaner around this flange and the saw died instantly. Now that's not always the best test, because some of that mist could potentially be getting sucked into the carb, which will make it go uber rich and then it'll die. Okay, but always good. If you spray something around an area and the saw dies, that's typically you got an air leak. Now we put crank seals in this, so we're pretty sure it's not that. Okay guys, I'm going to make another gasket and I'll hit you guys back up when we're ready. Okay, made another gasket, and okay, throw that in there. It ain't fancy, but it'll work. Okay. Now, I'm going to take my brake clean. I want to make darn sure this time this thing doesn't leak. Because like I said, if I have to, I'll pull it down again. This is the game we play with these old saws. I like doing it. It's definitely not for everybody though. But I am a glutton for punishment, so... like I said, I'm hoping I glued, if you watched the last video, I glued the intake boot down in hopes that it would seal. Okay. Okay, our carb goes in this way. This is a little bit tricky to do. We'll make it work. Okay. Just going to try and keep you guys in frame here. Okay, so we got our carburetor and our gasket. Okay, it goes like this. Again, I just try and make sure I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm going to clean this flange up real good. There's actually some crud on here. I'm going to keep this butterfly closed, and I'm just going to take this thing right now. I'm going to buff it up with some 400 grit. Okay, we want to make sure that this thing is going to seal, and we're going to try and give it a fresh mating surface without getting anything into the carb is the idea. Okay, I'm just going to get a little brake clean on there. Open the throttle plate. Okay, so the idea is I'm going to try and get this gasket. I think I'm going to glue the gasket onto the carburetor first, put the screws through it, and then we will try and drop it down on there. And again, I've wiped this down several times. It's clean, it's a good surface, a little pockmarked here, but it's sealed before, so that's the beauty of this situation. We know that this sealed before, so we know that we can get it to seal again, right? We had this saw beat until it had its fuel tank leak. We had this beat, right? So, okay, I'm just going to take my seal all. I got a little bit carried away. Got a little excited with the seal all there. Okay. Now the key is I do not want to block this impulse channel here, okay? If I do that, this thing won't impulse. Again, we know it's the impulse line, so if I happen to fire this thing up and it only runs for a second, when I touch the throttle it dies, I know that I glued this impulse line shut. Okay, I'm going to take my gasket, I'm going to push it down here. Oh, this is good stuff. Okay. This is typical with a lot of these old saws, your Husqvarnas, your Home Lights, etc., etc. You tend to get leaks here. That's why they went away from this. It's not the best system. It transfers a lot of heat. This one's a little bit better because the fuel tank is the flange, and you do have an intake boot right underneath here. So that is, I would say that's more desirable, but the more pieces you have to make up your intake system. Okay, I blocked that hole a little bit while I was yapping with you guys. The more pieces you have in between the carb and the saw, more chances for air leaks, right? So, again, see, I got a little bit in there, no big deal. Just make sure it's clean. I'm going to smear this away a little bit because I got a little carried away. I tend to do that with Moto Seal. I don't know why. It never leaks. Like never, ever, ever does it leak. Okay. We got our gasket. Now, what I usually do, I unhook these, I unhook the, what do you guys want to call it? The throttle linkage. And, that way, when you put the carb down, it's happy. Okay. We're going to put our air filter mount on here. Now, this is not touching yet. Just trying. Nice, everybody's out sledding today. At the rate our weather's going, we might not have much. We don't have much snow here this year. For whatever reason. We just don't. Okay, now I'm trying to get these bolts to start. There we go. I'm noticing that with these, you either get it perfect and it just drops together. Oh, maybe it didn't start. Okay, let's wiggle her a little bit. I don't know if I got it here, folks. Again, I still fight with these a little bit. Just seems to be the way they are. I'll get them though. I like the way this carb goes straight up and down. Okay, I'm gonna pull these screws out and see. There we go. Okay, that one caught. I guess I had the carb just too far one way. Again, I'm just trying to get this down before the moto seal starts to set up. There we go. I think we got it. Okay. Beauty. Mac guys, once again, how am I doing? Hopefully you guys could see. Sometimes the biggest struggle is getting stuff on film for you guys without my hand being in the way. Okay, got that nice and tight. I don't want to over tighten it. Stuff like this I find just tight, you know, not crazy tight. Okay, there's your choke. Put our fuel line back on. I used to put the fuel line back on first, but I find I have a harder time getting the carb to line up. Okay, let's get this on there. There we go. Shunk. Nice. You gotta say shunk. Okay, well, the carburetor's back on. Flip it over. Again, here's your throttle shaft. I don't know if you guys can see that. There you go. Grab this throttle shaft right here. I'll come from this way. Okay, and I just hook it back in to the trigger. There we go. See, this one right here. Okay, well, I'm going to let this sit for 15-20 minutes, and then let's attempt to fire this machine up. I think there's fuel in it. Yeah, there's fuel in it. I want to put a little more time on this. I'm pretty diligent about testing my saws before they leave here. Don't get me wrong, Buchan is more than competent to work on my saws. He's got way more Mac experience than me. But he's a busy man, I'm a busy man, and I feel like my job is to keep him busy running power saws, not you know, have him messing around. We still have to make a guide plate for the chain on this thing and a few other odds and ends, but other than that, this power saw is pretty much complete. We did some experimental work. There you go. You guys can see it. I'm just going to pause you guys here. Okay. Forgot to angle you guys down here. There we go. Sorry, the throttle came out. Always handy. There we go. Okay, let's see what we got here. Okay, friends, there you go. It sounds better. It's definitely tuning better. And I'll have to put this thing back in the wood before I decide whether I want to change that intake or not. It's last time I fired this thing up, it was really hard to tune. It was kind of all over the place. Let's see what it does now with the air filter on. Hold on here, Brent. Jeez. Whew. Well, I think we potentially have an intake leak. Did you hear it stumbling there? Now, I couldn't get it right onto the intake boot, but as I was spraying it there, it seemed to want to stumble. So, ooh, it's smoky in here. Don't do what I do. Let's have a quick look here. Let's fire this thing up again. You guys hear how it's kind of all over the place. I almost wonder if this decomp's leaking. I'm going to change this decomp, guys. I have a hunch. I really do. Okay, friends. Well, I replaced the decomp. I'm going to see the intake's leaking. It starts and runs okay. I'll just aim you guys back down here. Thought I'd let you guys hear that. This thing's got a little bit of an air leak. It's not a terrible one, but okay, well, Project Super Pro is, I'm just going to have to tear it down and go through the intake and everything. I glued the intake when it was really cold out. It wasn't cold in here, but I have a feeling that it didn't seal properly. I didn't have this problem last time, so I know, I'm 98% sure that, you know, it's the intake leaking. What else could it be? It ran perfect until we had the fuel leak. We took it apart, but we disturbed all the mating surfaces. So I even replaced the impulse line again, and it's still giving me grief. So to be continued. And that's old power saws, folks. Sometimes they don't want to cooperate. Anyhow, Super Pro 70. We got a good mess on the bench. As always, thanks for watching. Take her easy. I'll see you guys later.